welcome to another broadcast of The Soul of the Everyman on the ArtistFirst Radio Network. All past shows are archived. You can listen to them anytime. Visit ArtistFirst.com. We welcome your questions and comments to DJ@ArtistFirst.com. And now here they are, your hosts, Michael and Margaret Lyons.
Thank you very much, C-Man, and you're home now. It's okay. Welcome home. This is the soul of Everyman, and this home, our home, su casa e mi casa, or however you say that.
My home is your home.
It's your mi casa e su casa.
There you go. And welcome home. I'm Margaret.
And I should be in a home. I'm Michael. And you guys are home. This is the soul of Everyman, where for the last more than 2 years we have invited you to share our home. And you owe us a lot of rent. So pony up. Don't make us come there. Don't make us come over there. But in fact, tonight's topic is home. And I think of all of the kind of universal concepts of what people can relate to in almost any language, there's the concept of home. There's others like mother and water and mother-in-law, but home is something that truly is very close to our hearts.
It is. It's one thing that I'd say most of us think of when we think, where I'd like to be safe and warm. And unfortunately, there are people who do not have that experience. But for those people, we pray for you, because that's a hard thing not to have as a foundational experience as a child. Mm-hmm. Very difficult.
But I think yes, it's a very, very difficult thing. When we look at the word home, we also have this concept of being homeless. And of all the things which frighten people the most and
mm-hmm.
make people have compassion for others the most is when you see somebody who has lost their home or who is
right.
homeless. And something about that, when you see folks who are homeless or they've created this minimal shelter which they happen to be living in, and unfortunately even in this very rich nation, you see many people who are homeless. There's an immediate heart echo of, oh my God, these people are living here.
Mm-hmm.
This is under this bridge abutment.
Right. In this cardboard box.
In this cardboard box. And the idea of not having a home, or worse, losing your home, strikes right to the core, right to the heart. It's like we all need shelter, and we all need food, and we all need good clean water and those things. But beyond just simple shelter, there's the idea, the concept of home. It's the place where you are yourself.
Right. Right. The idea of growing up in an environment where you are loved regardless of your faults.
Or because of them.
Okay.
In some ways. Well, no, I mean that seriously. Home, and its very closely related concept of family, are when you come into your home or into the home of somebody whom you are very closely related to, your parents or your sibs or so on, you are unconditionally accepted there. You are part of this thing which we call a family, and your home, as we began a very fractured way, was that your home is their home. My home is your home. That concept of opening your home to a certain group of people, or to whomever you welcome into your home, is sort of a basic relationship.
Mm-hmm.
There are those who are guests in your home, and then there are those who belong there. And the people who belong there, you cross this kind of invisible line. I think we've all had the experience, of course, of having a family, and some of us are still in therapy, and and then, but then there's the experience, I think, that a lot of us have had, maybe not everybody, of being accepted into another person's home as one of the family.
Mm-hmm.
You cross this kind of invisible, weird line where you were a guest or a friend or somebody who could come over, and to the point where now you're walking in the door and you're saying, "Hi, Mom," to this complete stranger, not a stranger, but now, this woman who's not your mom. "Hi, Mom, what's for dinner?" And Mom says, Mom too, "Oh, what do you want?" you know,
We're having this. We'll just throw some more in.
We'll just throw some more in. And that concept of home, or rather that idea of belonging to a home or belonging to a family unit, are very closely aligned, very closely related. It comes closer to the core of exactly that, a familial relationship. Those who are part of your home group, those who are part of your tribe, your family, are your homies. Your homies belong in your home. I mean, that's why it evokes that sort of, it's your blood. You are now not just someone who we would welcome any stranger, perhaps, or we're very generous people. We give to people. No, now you're one of us. You've crossed the line. Like I said, there's this invisible line between those who are, perfectly nice people who are not part of the family, and those who are part of the family.
Right. As you're part of the family, there are family rules that you've got to follow.
That's
and
right.
There are guests.
And there are guests who get to do anything they want.
Almost anything they want. Almost. But, they have a certain different set of rules if there are guests in your home.
Yes. And then, Margaret, there's another concept of home, which is making a home. And when you meet your significant other, and you decide that you're going to bind your lives together in whatever way that you bind your lives together. I recommend mastic. You bind your lives together, and then you go out from your respective homes, which just not to digress too far, but when you join these two families together, you also join these homes together, so that everyone. But you go out and you make another, like, bud or another piece of this unit, this home, this kind of idea of expanding, branching out and expanding the concept of the home, and then you make a home together. It's completely different from, just living in the same space. If you're in a huge apartment building, you're not home with everybody else in there. Although you're all in the same building, you're all sharing the same area, you all have the same all those things are the same address, etc. But your home doesn't include everybody that's nearby or everybody who's even in the same building. It's the people you make home with that make the home. It's a deeper level of relationship than just co-location. It's not just the people who happen to be nearby. Although over time, you could be thrown together but in generally speaking, you and your significant other are making a home, and in essence, you're making a relationship which is defined in some ways by the term home.
Right. And the definition of home is something that you and your significant other must agree on that definition.
Mm.
I mean, honestly, when you're dating, you begin to understand what home means to the other person.
And it's you have to understand they're crazy, and they have to understand you're crazy. And the two of your crazies have to get together and kind of like be crazy together. No, I mean, it's serious. There are some certain key elements which are probably going to be common, because otherwise relationships are very difficult. It's difficult to really bridge home beyond, if it's so foreign, it makes relationships difficult. Because you're not speaking the same language in a different kind of way. You may all be speaking English, but you're not speaking the same language. What home means to you and what home means to me, if they're so far apart, it's very difficult to bridge that gap.
What I find fascinating is that in the older generations, the major complaint had been, especially if after they were married, they moved into one or the other apartment, like the guy's or the girl's apartment. It's usually the woman's apartment. And then you hear...
It's cleaner. Less burn marks on the walls, Go ahead.
But the major complaint there was, well, then I get my head handed to me because I'm not doing things right. I'm not putting things away the way they should be put away. I'm not putting the toilet paper roll on the right way. I'm not, I use a different toothpaste, or I leave things in it, So you sit there and you realize that they hadn't really talked about home.
And well, and those are all interesting concepts, because part of I think you mentioned this earlier, but part of making a home together is compromise.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to have a partner to make a home. You can be home all by yourself. In fact, some of you should be home all by yourself. And the old idea of home alone. But I digress. What I mean to say is you can make a home. You can have a place which is a home, and there can just be one person. You can make a home of your own. But when you are starting to share a home, you have a relationship. The two of you are let's say it's at least two, are coming together. You have to blend your individual concepts of home, and it can be something which you grew up in a home where, like you said, certain things were done. The dishes were put away after dinner every night. These were just these rituals which you grew to associate with home. And then you meet another person, mm-hmm. and their concept of home, is the dishes can just stay in the sink for a week, and you're like, boop, no, that's not home. You must, you those kinds of things can often become sort of friction points, mm-hmm. for a new relationship or a new, and they sound small and you can make fun of them, but when home is also about, it's also about expressing yourself in your environment, and you do have to feel completely comfortable. And if you're not comfortable in your home, you know that there's something wrong. You feel it inside. I'm not comfortable in my own home is a terrible complaint that people can feel, and this is start to break relationships apart. But if you have a good solid one, you want to know that you're comfortable and accepted. That's part of it. Mm-hmm. It's that no one's trying to make you do stuff to change. You're not on your best behavior at home, and we all know we're not on our best behavior at home. You don't have to be. The point is, you don't have to be. You are you, accepted for whom you are in your home, because people know you. They know who you are, and that's an important part of it. So when you're coming with who you are, and your idea of home is part of who you are, and you're making a home with someone else who's got a different idea of home, there's a compromise of relationship between the two of you, and then there's a compromise of what is home to you and what is home. And it gets to a greater kind of, there's a larger thing. Well, my mother never did it that way, or my father never did it that way, or whomever. So you also have to kind of sync up your whole. Home is bound into culture. It's bound into tribe. It's bound into, well, if we do it this way, and then they come over for the XYZ holiday, and they see that we have our toilet paper rolls upside down, it'll be a scandal. it'll go out, and the whole family will be talking about how we set our table. So there's also, and we're kind of throwing a lot of things on the table here, but there's a lot of expectations about what home is that go back maybe generations. We now find out that 3 generations ago, because Grandma couldn't afford candlesticks, she put oil lamps on the table. Well, that's home. Now you have to have oil lamps on the table. Then you go, well, it's 2019. Can't even find oil lamps anymore. It's like, but these things are tied in with tradition, and they're tied in with who we are and who we appear to be, and how we, and it becomes a we thing, how we do things,
And really, that's the key to making home, especially if you're newly married.
Mm.
How are you going to agree to live together? Because there is coexistence, which means that this is my area and that's your area, and my stuff doesn't touch your stuff. Your stuff doesn't touch my stuff.
Yes.
Or are you actually going to meld things together? It's critical to know what your perspective is. What is the most important thing for home for you?
I want to go back to that point. The my stuff doesn't touch your stuff. I mean, many people's home concepts turn into sort of a North Korea, South Korea demilitarized zone kind of thing. Where, okay, I've got my stuff in my part of the home. Or sometimes you have, that's his home and that's her home. We have, quote unquote, a home, but it encompasses 2 armed camps. And it's not that, it's easy to laugh at these things, but people break home up along many different lines, sometimes along economic lines, sometimes along responsibility lines. This is my money, this is my money, this is what you do for the kids, this is what I do for the kids. So to the extent that your relationship is well enmeshed and well synchronized, can also be to the extent that you've meshed and synchronized your concepts of home. It's so close to the heart. It's so close to who you are, that you can pledge your in a lovely wedding ceremony. I pledge my life and my everything I am and all that I am, and birds and songs and fairies and every. But you start to, like you said, you turn the toilet paper the wrong side up. And all of a sudden, because a kink, that wasn't in the wedding vows. I don't remember the part about, I shall honor and preserve and keep the toilet paper roll with the paper on top. But it can become a very, it can become challenging because these are so close to your heartbeat.
Well, it's more unconscious.
Yes.
Okay, these are habit forms that you do at home, which is unconscious. This is what made you comfortable.
Exactly. It's comfort.
And when you marry, usually you marry because you want to be together.
Mm-hmm.
That's the general idea. You guys want to just be together and live together and love together and make a home. And make a home. But no one ever, very few people I know of actually talk about what home is. Whether or not they communicate to one another what home is. It's usually like this journey of discovery where they're climbing Mount Everest, trying to figure out, wait a minute, you do this, and I do this, but I did this not because I wanted to diss you. I did this because this is what we do when I was growing up. And so this is what you do when you were growing up. So you have to, it's like, be able to stand there and go, well, what do you guys want to do? This is your home. This is what you did in your family's home, but now you are making your own. So you've got to agree that this is going to be a unique relationship, therefore a unique home. What decisions do you want to make?
Right.
And that's where you find out whether there's rigidity in a person. If they suddenly cannot adapt where they can expand enough to allow other people's concepts of what makes them comfortable can be in their purvey or their area of living, because to them it meant, this was a diss to me. It's like, well, no, even if you explain that it's not a diss, it's still a diss for them.
Right. And you can also find, there's the concept of you're having a fight, let's say as a couple. Oh, I'm going home to mother. I'm going home. I'm going home to mother. Yeah. This is not my home. I don't feel comfortable here. I don't feel accepted here. I'm going home. I'm going back to the place where, they accept.
And I was comfortable and safe.
I was comfortable and safe, and they accepted me. And this is not that place right now. So there's that, and then there's this whole idea, like you said, there's rigidity that you have to overcome, but there's also this idea that there is so much expectation. You can think to yourself, well, if I change the way we did home, I'm almost being,
disloyal.
Disloyal, exactly. I'm saying, well, I mean, we weren't doing it right all this time, and we're going to do things differently, and I'm going to get looked at and say, well, what do you mean? This is the way we... And you can find yourself being dragged away from your home concept back to the one, if you have these kinds of conflicts, you have this, well, that's not the way we do it. We, in our home, which you kind of get scooped into being claimed back, into the previous concept of home. So part of home is setting boundaries. Mm-hmm. And if you don't set boundaries around your home, and then within your home, you have to start to say no boundaries, blend. But you have to say this, and you literally almost have to put your foot down and say, this is my home. In my home, we do it my way. Mm-hmm. And that argument, if there's an unresolved issue between your previous home and the home that you are in, that can become a source of friction. You'll oftentimes see, especially at significant events, let's say there's a birth of a child in your home, and people want to come in and help. But we had this talk earlier, we had this one about helping your way. Well, you come in and you're not there to help, you're there to reestablish the way you do things in your home for your kids. And that can become a real intrusion.
Mm-hmm. And you're not even thinking. See, that's the interesting thing, because the homes that you come from, if they're not aware that this couple is establishing their own and don't take their cues from the new couple, you will begin to impose a whole bunch of ideas that you feel that, well, this is the way we've got to do it. We've done this for generations, and it's tradition.
Yes.
And you make no room for anything else except the rigidity of your way.
Right. And there can be wounding and hard feelings if you come into a situation where you want to impose your concept of home onto another person's home in the sense of reclaiming it or reclaiming mm-hmm. them, you immediately have a source of conflict, because what are you doing? You're not respecting boundaries anymore.
Right. In other words, you do not recognize that there is a boundary there,
or that they have the right to say what is going on in mm-hmm. their home. So, this I mentioned before the universal concept of mother-in-law. But in fact, any time that you're entering into out of your okay. There's the general concept of home, and you have all your homes of all your kids. But even when you go into from your home into their home, there has to be that idea of this is where I am. This is where it's my domain. It's not necessarily has to be very hard or very tyrannical or anything, but you have to say with the old idea of, and this is because now we're grandparents, so you come to grandma and grandpa's house, it's our rules. We can do whatever we want here. This is our house. So throw away mom's rules. We try not to do that, except when it's fun. But in fact, there is the idea of in the house of whomever you're, even amongst your family, inside their house, it is their rules. You have to give them that. You have to let that boundary also take into effect on you. Your concept of home, you want it to be respected. You therefore have to respect someone else's concept of home, which will be very similar maybe to the one you have, but it's always going to be a little different. So that compromise that's a family dynamic issue. There's the two making their own home, and then there's the family dynamic outside, which is still trying to figure out how these two homes are still a unit but not the same home.
Well, it also depends on the relationship between the parent and the grandparent.
True.
Okay, that the characters that are there also guide that. You will get people who, they're aware that things need to be respected, and then you get characters who basically feel like, well, I still know better.
Exactly.
And, and it doesn't matter. They will just go off and say or do exactly what they think it should be done this way. This is the way it's got to be. And someone has got to take the higher ground at that point. Otherwise, it just becomes this little nitpicking fight. So what is your higher ground? For instance, that comes to mind is when we were having trouble with Chris. And both families had come to lend a hand. And both families had different ways of handling children and houses. Very, very different. But I still remember we had come back from a particularly long and grueling session. And Chris was still in the hospital, but I had come back to the house. And your mother and your sisters met me at the door. And Marie had basically said, well, she was trying to clean up the house and it was time to basically at that point, when I walked in, your sister looked at me and said, I want you to know I had nothing to do with
this.
Marge, I really had nothing to do with this. And I'm standing there going, okay.
Okay.
I walk in the door, and my whole house was rearranged. And I think she was expecting me just to go toot, because suddenly it's like every rule you can think of was broken for someone else's home. You not only was not just like helping clean, but she rearranged everything. And what I remember was I started laughing.
Yeah.
I said, it's okay. Your mother does this when she's nervous about things. She likes to rearrange things. It's okay.
Right.
And that's what I mean by deciding to take a higher road.
Yes. And in doing that, you still preserved home, because home was still, you accepted that as that's not the definition.
No, home is where my heart is.
Exactly.
My heart was with him.
Exactly. And and that's exactly what we're going to talk about in the next in the next half hour. And we're going to go back home to the studio, and we'll see you on the other side.
There is a Reaper is the story of 5-year-old Christopher Aaron and his life-changing struggle with leukemia. Winner of both the Indie Bragg Medallion as well as the reader's favorite silver medal for memoir, There is a Reaper has more than 100 Amazon book reviews and a 5-star rating. It has been described as life-changing, spiritual, a must-read. Just released on Audible and iTunes, this memoir is also available in paperback and on Amazon Kindle for only 99 cents. Get your copy of this life-changing memoir today.
Taking God on Patrol is a first-person account of the world of law enforcement from the perspective of a Christian police officer in the 4th largest city in America. From speeding car chases to the crossing of the thin blue line, author Mark S. Cariner seeks to find God's biblical truth in a behind-the-scenes look at law enforcement. And check out Mark's newest book, The Tactical Heart. Both are available at Amazon.com.
Rick Riordan fans, love mythology with plenty of action and humor? Destroyer's Blood is for you. The new fantasy novel by award-winning author Michael Lynes is book 1 of the adventures of Dev Kalian, the Blood series. Follow Dev and his magic sword Betrayer as they are suddenly attacked and forced to return to Olympus to fight in a war they want no part in. The world of men and gods is about to be destroyed by Zeus's ancient foe, and only Dev and Trey can stop him. The conflict never stops, and the amazing twist will have you on the edge of your seat. Act now while the ebook is on sale for only 99 cents. Destroyer's Blood is available on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, Kobo, and fine e-tailers everywhere. And while you're there, get the free prequel, It's in the Blood, available for a limited time.
Hi, this is Minette Lauren, author of Race for the Sun. Do you believe in guardian angels? Check out book 1 of my Soul Watcher series. It can be found on Amazon.com or anywhere fine books are sold. Go to www.minettelauren.com, and you are listening to the ArtistFirst Radio Network.
The Fat Man Gets Out of Bed is the latest book from Michael Lynes, the award-winning author of There is a Reaper. Featuring 13 original stories, this wide-ranging collection has everything. Forbidden love, gods versus demigods, weird invading aliens, sexy seductive artificial intelligence, and unusual passion between the living and the dead. All set amidst fantastic worlds of pain and loss and boundless joy. From the sublime to the macabre to the bittersweet, The Fat Man Gets Out of Bed will leave you breathless with laughter, brimming with tears, trembling with suspense. Available now on Amazon.com, Google Play, iTunes, Kobo, and fine e-tailers everywhere.
You are listening to The Soul of the Everyman on the ArtistFirst Radio Network. Send us your questions and comments to dj@artistfirst.com. Now back to your hosts, Margaret and Michael Lynes.
Thank you much, very much, Big Man. And yes, we are back.
We are home.
You are home. At The Soul of the Everyman, we try to make it so that you do feel home.
That's right. So get the heck out. Damn it. Get a job.
It's just so terrible. Okay.
People have been eating in this home for 2 years now. We haven't seen it. Oh, no. Now I'm getting poked. But this, this show has been about the kind of universal concept of home. And I think we talked about making home. We talked about, kind of respecting the boundaries of home. But these are sort of homes from the point of view of, our physical world, our home that we have here. There's also the idea of both coming from our home, let's say our home in the eternal sense of home, and coming here to live for a period of time make some portion of this reality our home. And then when we die, and this is a concept again, language always informs, we say we're going home. We're going from this physical home, and in many ways we talk about the body as sort of the temple of the spirit. The body is a temporary home. In the book that we wrote together, Christopher's Story, there's one very poignant incident, anecdote, and I think you do best to tell it, about when the concept of home, from the point of view of the body, and the fact that as the body deteriorates, it's like a home.
Oh, well, it's kind of two stories rolled into one.
It is.
But Christopher had asked me, and he was 5 years old at the time, "Mommy, what is death?" And they always ask these questions when you're driving a car and they're in the back seat and in the child seat. I just remember looking in the rearview mirror at him. We were stopped at a light, and I realized he was thinking about his own death at that point. And he was wondering, what is this thing called death? So I asked God, please give me an answer, Lord. Fill my heart, because this little one needs an answer. He needs something that he can grasp. And a sense of calm came over me, and I just said, "It's easy, Chris. You know how Daddy's always fixing things? He fixed the car, and he replaced the windows in the house, and you're always there helping him." He goes, yeah. Well, there comes a point in time where you just can't fix it anymore. And the people inside have to move out and live in another place, a better place. That's what death is. Death is when this body can no longer hold your spirit or soul. And you move on. And from there, he had asked another question about home, or rather, going home. And it pretty much was, well, if I die, I'm going to be the only one up in heaven. How can home be without you guys? I know I'm going to be with God, but I don't know God like that. And this is a progressive story, people. We had many conversations, Christopher and I, about this. But in a nutshell, the response to that was, do you remember the concept we talked about what happens when you love somebody? He said, oh yeah, you take them and you put them in your heart. Mm-hmm. And whenever you want to talk to them, or they're not in front of you, but you want to speak to them, he's like, yeah, you ask the person in your heart. Well, when you go to heaven, Chris, heaven is outside of time. It is eternal. And there is a mommy in heaven, because there's a part of me that is eternal and that is in heaven, just as there is a daddy and your brothers. So when you leave here, you will find me there to greet you. The eternal mommy in heaven and your family will be there.
And that concept for him was perfect. But it's perfect for all of us, because we feel, and I think we're absolutely right about this, that we are going home.
Mm-hmm.
This place, which we make our home for a period of time, and it can be, short or long. What we call home is where we are ourselves, where we are accepted, where people know us, and they know us for who we are, and we don't have to put on any airs or put on any special, faces or anything. You can be yourself. Well, our home, our going back home, is taking the part of us which is not the body, it's not the face, it's not whether you're short or tall or fat or skinny or any of those things. It's the you which is in the heart, the mommy in the heart, the me in the heart. And you take that and bring it back home. The eternal part of us is also the part which is home, because the eternal doesn't have faces. It doesn't, and home is all about not just comfort or whether or not one roll of paper is this way or the other way. It's about being able to be yourself with people, and let them be themselves with you, and totally accept each other. To the extent that you can do that is to the extent that you are home. And when you go back home, when we leave this life, this body, which is our temporary home, the part of us which leaves all this behind, all the physical, and goes back home to the eternal, where we are all one in one big home. The wonderful passage in the Bible is, my Father's house, my Father's home has many mansions. Well, notice the concept, notice the thing. Home, the eternal home, encompasses mansions. A mansion is a home, isn't it? Well, yes, but within the eternal home, we are all home. We are all known and accepted amongst all of us. Our souls, who we really are. We down here we separate, we segregate. We say, well, I like this one, I don't like that one. And up there, when we go home, we really are known for who we are, for every little piece of us, the good, the bad, the ugly, and all, and accepted.
Yes.
That's home.
Yeah. Yes. Unconditional love will receive all of you.
Mm.
The good, the bad, and the ugly.
And the ugly. Oh, yeah, ugly.
And the beautiful.
And the beautiful.
All of you is accepted and loved. And to allow yourself, see, that's the interesting thing, is when we're down here, the first thing we do is judge the piece of you that you don't like as bad, or the piece of you that you've judged as ugly. And you don't want to give it any grace. You don't want to give it any light. And it needs light. That's, yeah.
Oh, it's light coming in.
So when you realize that you have the ability to receive this unconditional love, in order to do that, you have to open the doors to allow yourself to be loved. And that means that you've got to allow that piece of you that you feel is ugly or bad to receive grace.
Mm-hmm.
Receive grace, because you are loved. And grace will transform you into something that you probably won't even recognize.
And the true self, the self that is home, in the heart, in the spirit, that goes back home from this life, knows that's something which, again, when we speak of truly being home, it's something which echoes in the heart immediately. If you say to somebody, "You're home now," it evokes such warmth and such feeling, such depth, because we want to be home.
Yes,
we want to be home.
There's a part of every human being that yearns to be home, where you are it's more than, how do I say this? It's, you understand that you receive a love that is beyond words. Fills you. It fills every corner of your being. Parts of you that you didn't even know you had holes.
Right.
And that love fills you to overflowing. And you are more than safe. You belong. This is where you belong. And it has nothing to do with this power thing of, I'm above or who's below or who's whatever. It has nothing to do with that. It's understanding that you fit in this particular spot, and this spot is unique because it was made especially for you. And you were made to fit here so that we all may receive this incredible, unconditional love.
I mean, remember we were talking about this a little bit in the NDEs. When people have an NDE, oftentimes they'll experience this as part of it. This idea of meeting with somebody, call it whomever you wish, and the feeling they get is that they are home, and they say it with this intense longing. I was home. I knew that I was home, that I was there, that I was welcomed and necessary, and that this was where I belonged. That concept of home, when you are physically looking like you're going through the worst possible circumstances, it shows the dichotomy between the heart, the who we are, the truly who we are, who's going home, and the place that we're living, our current home, which is ephemeral and physical and can be damaged and can be misunderstood and can be rejected and all the things that happen here. So the echo of home, I want to just make sure that what we feel here and the people that we accept into our home and then we make home with is driven by our yearning to be in that experience. And we don't get it right down here. We get it. We get it as close as we can, and to the extent, to the level that you can get to this ideal concept of home, which you really can't have here. There's just no way. But to the closest that you can come, it's like unconditional love. To the closest you can come is to the extent that your happiness will be, sort of maximized. Will be sort of the most happiness, the most contentment, the most acceptance that you'll feel is to the extent that you can get there. We know we can't really get there here. It's beyond. It's beyond the ability of exactly.
We're too limited down here.
Too limited.
And we do try to express it as best we can. But it also requires receptivity on those that you are interacting with. Are they willing to stretch their concepts, or are their habit forms the only thing that they want to interact on? If you can get past this idea that you are what you do, or you are what you do repeatedly.
Yes.
You can choose to be so much more. You can choose to participate in so much more than what you habitually think about or habitually feel because you want your comforts or habitually do.
Yes, and I mean, we know that we can't get there. I think that a lot of what we see as our journey here is a journey of discovery. It's a journey of changes and makings and but the idea of home, you start out with home is, as an infant, is mom and home, mother and home are so close to each other as an infant, and you move into an idea where home expands, where it becomes your brothers, your sisters, your father, the people in your family, the idea, but still home. You go out and you make home. You carry that forward, and you find someone you may find more than one person, but you find someone who can kind of grow that concept of home. But the whole journey, when you have your own children and you make a home for them, and so on, is moving from coming here to be, for a short period of time, make this your home, this body your home, all the way back to being to the point where you leave this to go back home. And we really, throughout all of our literature and the way we understand spirit, and through many, many different cultures and many, many different, there's this idea of going back home, going back to a place where we are welcome, where we fit completely, where what we are is well known. Our hearts are completely plumbed. They understand us there. So home is certainly not a structure, and it's certainly not a some sort of a power thing. It's not really family, but it's part of that. It's not really even ourselves. It's part of that. It's really who we are as part of this dip into the physical. It's part of the arc of coming from the spirit into the physical, seeking the end of that, and then back home. So where is home? Home, the old saw, home is where the heart is, but it's true. Home is what's in your core, which is your spirit, which is on its way back home. It's journeying in a circle, back. Home.
Yeah, to return to that wholeness and the awareness, because things are so much more broad out there. Levels of existence are vast. And we dip down into this limited space for a period of time to explore what it means to have a heart. Do you have a heart? Do you have a heart for people? You begin to see how preferences can begin to shut your heart down. And that's really what this experience down here opens your eyes to, is how limiting the how do I say this? The experience down here is to allow you to open your heart up. Because when you come down here, especially when you're little, it's all about you. And it's just this little compact ball. Your heart is just, it's me, and it's me, and it's me, and then mom. It's me and mom. And it's me and dad. Okay, me, mom, and dad. And me and my brother, and me and my sister. And then it's just expansion begins. And what's interesting is you can see where that heart boundary exists for the person that sits in front of you. Where is this person in his boundary line? And it's understanding when you must establish a boundary because people want to draw you into their stuff. And when you know what is yours and what you may have accepted as yours, but you also have the ability to reject anything that is not yours.
Well, I think that's a great concept, because yours is another. Home is also about owning.
Mm-hmm.
And this, the word own is something which people think of, well, you own your car, you own this, you own that.
Things.
No,
We're back to that thing.
they're back to things. But owning is an old English word, and when you say, we'll own them, when you say we'll own somebody, what you're really saying is that they belong to us. They are us. You are me. The whole concept of owning someone is not that you own them in the sense of a property. You own them in the sense that what they do is like what you do. What they do is you. You are them. They are you. We are us. Your family owns you in the sense that they can disown you. Okay? If you think of disowning, you say, oh, I know what disowning is. Like, get the heck out. Well, owning is you're still in,
Mm-hmm.
like the mob, you're in or you're out. You're owned. When you own somebody, you say, I don't care what happens, you're still one of us. There's this wonderful quote we put up of Frost's, and Frost said it because he's a poet. He said it so succinctly. He said, home is the place where when you have to go there, they have to take you in. Now, this is something which is a little bit weird. You think to yourself, that's odd. But what it really means is that home is where you are owned, where you belong. You're so part of it that you don't even realize it. And that you may go as far as you want to go. You can go as to the ends of the earth and beyond and do anything you want. It's like the prodigal son story.
Mm-hmm.
The story of the prodigal son is that this person decides that he's going to take his inheritance, going to leave home, going to, in essence, spend it frivolously and waste it, and comes at the end of this story to his senses and says, I will go home, and I will own my disown. I'll disown myself. I say, I'm not really part of the family anymore, but please just take me in and feed me. Well, they don't just take him in and feed him. He's still owned. He's still one of the whole. He comes in and they put him right back into the place where he belongs. We knew everything about you. We knew you would do this. We knew this is who you were. We don't care. You're still one of us. So when you have to go back to home, they have to take you in because you are them. They are you. Home, the relationship of making home is a bond which is almost impossible to break.
Right.
You can break home, but you have to go so far. You have to become somebody so unrecognizable that we didn't know that you were this. But home means that you know someone so deeply that no matter what they do, you still own them. They still own you. They're still home. When they need you, you're there.
Right, and it's keeping in mind, of course, that own is not like a slavery thing, which is what most people think of. Okay.
Exactly.
The term you used before, you will be disowned by the family. That's the concept. That is the original concept of understanding what it means to belong to a family.
Mm.
You belong to a family. Ideally, the family loves you unconditionally.
Mm.
Ideally.
Ideally.
But, and that comes from the concept of understanding the prodigal son, that divine love is unconditional.
Mm.
And that is what we try to attain to, is to love unconditionally. And let's face it, most people, it's easier for them to love people outside their family than people inside their family.
They say.
Mm-hmm.
But, we are owned. We own each other here as family, and we are owned by the Spirit, which is our true family. We
belong there. And this we've come to the end of our hour.
We'll never disown you, though.
And I'm Margaret.
And I'm Michael, and you're home.
Right. And thank you for listening.